My entire life, I have been afraid. And I'm not too sure exactly what I've been afraid of. I've been afraid of distractions. I've been afraid of bad things happening. But to be completely fair with you, my biggest fear is not completing all the things that I've actually wanted to do in my life. Because to be completely honest, all I do is I sit around and I do nothing. And of course, that is my own fault. Because when a human being is sitting there doing nothing, your mind is kind of like a machine. If you're not giving it a task, if you're not giving it something to do, it's going to sit there idle. It's not going to know what to do. It's going to freak out. It's going to give you depression. It's going to give you anxiety. It's going to give you all of these different things. I just had a conversation with somebody. Life is difficult. But the moment you accept that life is difficult, well, that's the moment it becomes a little less difficult. Because you realize you have to do things. You realize you have to be who you have to be. The world does not shape you into who you want to be. It shapes you into who you need to be. Through all the traumatic shit, all the bad stuff, all the good stuff too. It all shapes you into who you need to be. Sometimes in order to become the person you want to be, you need to destroy the person you already are. Sometimes I think a part of learning, a part of growing, is dying. Killing off the old parts of you. Killing off who you used to be, your old habits, your old mindset, Realize this, a negative life will never make a positive mind. But a negative mind will never make a positive life. So figure where you stand. But sometimes I get it. You don't want to continue. You don't want to be here anymore. It's almost like you're too scared to leave, but too tired to stay. So you do exactly that. You hide under your blankets until it's like, 3, 4 p.m. And then when you wake up, you realize that the day is already over, and that's good because the only time you feel any sense of relief is when it's nighttime. When the morning sun is not shining, when the birds are not singing, when life is just silent. When it's just you and your thoughts, you there. The reason why your demons are so hard to get rid of is because they are the only things that are actually there for you when you need them. Or when you need someone to be there, your demons are there. They're comforting you. They're stroking your hair. They're telling you that everything will indeed be not okay. And you start to believe it. You start to become it. That negativity in your mind, you start to live it. You go out there and you're not confident in yourself anymore. You don't know if you can make it through this life. Part of the reason why you're so scared, well, it's not because of what's behind you, it's because of what's ahead of you. You're so aware, you realize that you have so much time, but there's almost so much time, there's also still so much time for things to go wrong, for things to completely fall on top of you. Life has not yet crushed your hopes and dreams, but one day it will. One day life will destroy you. It will leave your brain and mind and soul corrupted and buffering at the seams. And you won't know what to do. And the only thought that will be going through your head is how the world would be better off without you. How if you could just take all the pain, all the suffering, and let it go. Because you don't remember before you were born, do you? It was just nothingness. But we can't comprehend nothing because we're something. And something can never be nothing. You always were somebody. You always had a chance to go out there and live a life that was worth living. You had to make that decision. You could sit there for the rest of your life and be afraid. Because realize if you are afraid right now, you will be afraid always. And if you wait for the perfect time to jump inside of your life, well, that perfect time will never come. You have to let your thoughts flow out like water. You need to become water. You need to be able to flow through your obstacles. I think I might have made this saying, I might have said this before already on stream or something, but when your mind is corrupted, when your mind is foggy, just like water, it's hard to see the bottom. It's hard to get a clear answer. But as soon as you relax, as soon as you calm down and realize where you are, who you are, and what you're doing, and you chill, well, the water becomes clear. It becomes easy to see the bottom. It becomes still. You know, sometimes I don't even believe rock bottom exists. You know, because I believe you can make it to a rock bottom and even have a rockier bottom underneath that rock bottom. But rock bottom is a beautiful foundation for the rest of your life. Everybody, rock bottom is not where you lay. Rock bottom is where you decide to stop digging. Because whether you want to believe it or not, you have energy left. I understand you're tired. I understand that you feel it deep in your bones. That you're tired deep in your bones. That you feel like you just want some kind of eternal rest. That you just want the reward. Because the reality, everybody, is you only get to die for having lived. That is the whole point of life. That without life, there is no death. And without death, there is no life. There is no... well, there's no nothing. You know, realize that a person will probably meet their destiny on the road that they take to avoid it. Realize that your life does mean something. Realize that you are more than what you think you are. And do not believe everything that you think. Your mind has a very hard time distinguishing imagination from reality. So there will be so many times where you're sitting there on your bed thinking to yourself that something will go wrong, something will be not right. But then there you are to make it all better. As long as you push forward, as long as you show up every day, everybody, because half of life is showing up, doing the important stuff. I know you have important stuff you need to be doing, but you push it away. You go ahead and you do other productive things just to tell yourself that you're doing something. But realize, everybody, that when something is difficult in life, it doesn't mean it's complicated. And I think I might have said that before. You know, like breaking up with somebody. It might seem so complicated. There needs to be some kind of step. But in reality, you just sit down, tell them how you feel, and that is it. You know, everybody's going to sit here and act like we're not playing some sort of game. You know, I heard about this one philosopher. I don't even remember who it was. But, like, he went to his mother's funeral and he did not cry. And then a couple days later, he was out there doing drugs, having sex, doing all these different things, laughing, enjoying life. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't cry at funerals. But what I am saying is you need to pick what matters to you. Because if you don't pick what matters to you, life will pick it for you. If you don't decide what you want to do in life, life will decide that for you. If you sit down and allow someone to dictate the rest of your life, they will. You know, it's nothing against anybody. You know, it's just human nature. It's almost like someone in a natural habitat, waiting to come out, waiting to feed, waiting to fight. But like we said before, you still have energy. Are you going to crawl out of your hole, or are you going to continue to use your energy to dig yourself deeper? Deeper into your despair? Or are you going to realize that life can be good? That life can be better? That yes, you might be tired. Yes, you might not know what's next. Yes, you might get knocked down, but you can always get back up. Because it doesn't matter how hard you can hit. It matters how hard you can get hit and keep on going. Keep moving forward, no matter what. One small step forward is 1,000 times better than staying stagnant, than not moving at all, not taking a chance. Because to live is to truly risk it all, to put your money on the line, your emotions on the line, to put you on the line. I understand that you don't want to continue. I understand that you want to resort to some kind of self-harm because that's the only way you could actually feel something. But I promise you that you may not be okay. But things will be all right. It is okay to not be okay. When you wake up in the morning and you're not excited for life and you don't want to continue, that's not normal. That's perfectly okay. Do not let people outcast you because you're not excited for life. Sometimes I wonder to myself how people do it. How do people live? How do people wake up and say, yes, another day? I just don't get it. You know, because usually when people ask you how you're doing, you say that you're okay, that you're fine, that there's nothing wrong, that you're great. But if someone were to catch you by yourself, you'd probably just say everything. All of it. That you're tired of all of it. And maybe that's okay. You know, maybe at the end of your light, at the end of that tunnel, there's a light. And I don't know if that's going to lead you to somewhere with strength and positivity. You know, because even if you have to lay down on your couch and stare at the ceiling for 12 hours just to feel all right, well, I guess that's what you got to do. Because everybody has their own coping mechanism. I cope in different ways than you. You cope different ways than me. Everybody has their own unique individual ways. You are an original person. Please do not go out there and die some kind of copy of someone else. And do not compare who you are right now to who somebody else is today. Because you are all on different journeys. We are all on different journey, different paths. It is impossible to understand what you have been through because it is impossible to know what it is like to be you on a planet living your life. Because what I could say, how I could act is limited. Human language is limited. Human experience, I just spit all over the place, is infinite. You could experience almost anything in different, countless ways. That is why it is very hard to be able to understand someone. Even if you sit there and listen with your full mind, your full heart, it is still hard to even grasp a fraction of what someone is trying to truly say. Be brave enough to exist loudly. Be brave enough to show the world who you really are. Because if it were all to go right now, I'll ask you something. If eternity is forever, and all of this is just temporary, then what are you waiting for? I want everyone to stay positive. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and I have one last thing for you. I will tell you right now that everybody dies, that you are not the exception. But you know what? Not everybody lives. I'll see you guys next time.